Hello, I'm Tony and I'm a teacher at Simul Academy, and this is another of our videos in the Vocabulary in the News series. If you haven't watched the other ones, I hope you will, perhaps after this one today. But today we're going to look at collocations. So collocations are words or phrases that are often used together in a way that sounds natural to native speakers. This can be quite tricky because it might seem there are different words which you could use, but these are the words which have been chosen and are being used by native speakers. So we're going to look at 3 news stories and look at how some of these collocations work. So the stories are mixed up together in this word cloud. Just have a minute to look at it and see if you can recognize what the stories could be. Do you have any ideas? Let's look at the first story. So I'll show you the headline for the story in a moment and see if you can fill in the missing words.
Japan Rail hikes cost of its tourist rail pass by 70%.
Do you remember this story? It spread around the world. It was big news for travelers everywhere. Let's have a look at the whole story and listen to it at the same time.
Delighted visitors from around the world have used Japan's bargain-priced rail pass to ride on the iconic bullet train. But the 7-day pass, which used to cost 29,650 yen, about the same as a Tokyo to Osaka round trip, now costs 50,000 yen. Despite the price hike, demand is likely to stay strong thanks to a weak yen and an unceasing flow of inbound tourists.
Take a minute to study the article and just look at the way the words fit together. In a moment, I'm going to show you some phrases from the article with one of the words missing. See if you can remember what the word is to complete the phrase. If you need more time to do any of these activities in the video, please pause and repeat as you need.
Delighted visitors from around the world have used Japan's bargain-priced rail pass to ride on the iconic bullet train. But the 7-day pass, which used to cost 29,650 yen, about the same as a Tokyo to Osaka round trip, now costs 50,000 yen. Despite the price hike, demand is likely to stay strong thanks to a weak yen and an unceasing flow of inbound tourists.
Did you get them all? Let's have a look at another story. So this time I'll show you the headline again for you to complete, and then we'll listen to the story without reading it. In the story, I'd like you to focus particularly on how verbs and nouns fit together. So which noun uses which verb.
US court says art generated by AI cannot be copyrighted. A US judge has ruled that art created by artificial intelligence cannot be copyrighted. affirming the Copyright Office's contention that creative works must have human authors. Generative AI has raised a number of intellectual property issues, in particular the use without permission of human-produced artwork to train AI.
Now have a look at some of the nouns from the story and see if you can remember the verb which collocated with them.
A US judge has ruled that art created by artificial intelligence cannot be copyrighted, affirming the Copyright Office's contention that creative works must have human authors. Generative AI has raised a number of intellectual property issues, in particular the use without permission of human-produced artwork to train AI.
You'll notice at the end we use train AI rather than teach AI. If you say you teach AI, it probably means that you're a university professor teaching computer science to students. Let's listen to the story and read it just to check all of those details.
A US judge has ruled that art created by artificial intelligence cannot be copyrighted, affirming the Copyright Office's contention that creative works must have human authors. Generative AI has raised a number of intellectual property issues, in particular the use without permission of human-produced artwork to train AI.
Okay, this is the final story, which I'm sure people will be familiar with. I'll show you the headline and see if you can complete it first of all.
Osaka's underdogs win Japan series, breaking the curse of the Colonel.
So in this story, I'd like you to focus just on one word, which is curse. And I'd like you to listen and see if you can hear the words that, particularly the verbs that collocate with curse.
Japan's most passionately supported baseball team, the Hanshin Tigers, has won the Japan series again. Their victory finally lifted the so-called curse of the Colonel, placed on the team after its fans threw a statue of KFC's Colonel Sanders into a river the last time they won the title way back in 1985.
Did you hear those verbs? So they were place a curse and lift curse. So you place a curse on someone and you lift the curse. Let's read the story and listen again to check the details.
Japan's most passionately supported baseball team, the Hanshin Tigers, has won the Japan series again. Their victory finally lifted the so-called curse of the Colonel, placed on the team after its fans threw a statue of KFC's Colonel Sanders into a river the last time they won the title way back in 1985.
Let's look at some other words which collocate with place and lift in the same way as curse does. Can you think of any examples? Place a ban on something, or you can lift the ban. Can you think of any others? Here are some other words that follow this same pattern. I'll just bring them up for you. So you can place restrictions, or you can lift restrictions, place sanctions, place an embargo on something and lift the embargo, place a curfew on somewhere or someone and lift the curfew, and finally place somewhere under martial law and lift martial law. The last three might be new vocabulary for you. Sanctions, I'm sure you're familiar with, and that often relates to trade, but it's a more general word for punishment, whereas embargo is usually particularly for trade, so refusing to buy or sell something. And a curfew is when people are not allowed to go out, usually in the evening or at night time. And finally, martial law is when the military take control of a city or a place and enforce military law on that place. Just have a moment to study them. Let's look at some other sentences using lift or place and see if you can choose one of these words to complete the sentence.
Restrictions have been placed on visitor numbers. The US lifted sanctions after the treaty was signed. The curfew was lifted once calm had returned to the city. The country was placed under martial law following the coup. The labor union's ban on overtime work has been lifted. OPEC members placed an embargo on the sale of oil.
Did you get them all? Let's have a look at that word cloud again from the beginning and just have a look through. See if you can pick out the stories again and reconstruct them in your own words, but particularly using some of those collocations that we heard. Okay, that's the end of the video, so thank you for watching. If it was interesting for you, I hope you will perhaps come and join us in a Simul class where we do these kind of activities, particularly the Advanced Vocabulary Production short course, which we run between our regular courses. Thank you and goodbye.